The first half of the 20th century saw titanic struggles and upheavals around the world and resulted in the deaths of tens of millions of people. The maps were redrawn countless times, and entire societies were pulled down and rebuilt in new forms, and ideology had become the defining factor to the shape they took. The 6 years of global war that were fought between 1939 and 1945 made for unlikely bedfellows, as capitalist democracies allied themselves to communist dictatorships to defeat the powers of fascism. What was left when peace came in 1945 were two global superpowers, facing each other with the ability to cause mass destruction to any who opposed them. The ideological conflict that emerged between the United States and the Soviet Union dominated world affairs for almost 50 years. Nations were divided, wars were fought through proxies, the world stood on the knife's edge of total annihilation, all in the name of freedom. The struggle of the Cold War was present everywhere through daily life, not just through politics. And at the end, emerged a winner as one side collapsed upon itself, not with a bang, but with a whimper. So, what did this war look like? How was it fought? Why was it fought? How did it affect people? This series aims to explore those very things, but we hope to bring not the perspective of the eventual winner, or the perspective of the lost glory of the defeated side. Instead, we will try to take a balanced view and show both sides of the conflict. Seminal events in the Cold War that will be discussed include the Sovietization of Eastern Europe, the conflict on the Korean Peninsula, the Suez Crisis, and the uprising in Budapest. We will examine the Cuban Missile Crisis and Berlin before moving on to the Vietnam and Prague Spring. We will look at the space race and nuclearization, as well as the Six-Day War and subsequent Yom Kippur War. China, Watergate, and Iran will be considered before moving on to Afghanistan and the Contras. Conflict across Africa and Asia will be discussed before moving to the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of communism. We all have different perspectives on the history of the Cold War, shaped by what we learned growing up, but each of us is only passingly familiar with the history of the other side. We're going to show you both sides of the coin as we explore the monumental events and their impact of the 44-year conflict. Starting from 1945, we will wind through the post-war period and examine the politics of the superpowers, their relations with their client states, and how these impacted the relationship between the Soviet Union and the United States. We will examine cultural milestones including art, literature, technology, even sport. We will investigate the people and how they lived their lives, and how their lives changed as the conflict continued. As YouTube ad revenue is notoriously volatile, we rely on our generous audience to support the running of the channel, and the best way you can support us is via Patreon at patreon.com/thecoldwar. We appreciate all the support we will be getting from our current and future patrons. We will see you on the fields of global confrontation that is the Cold War.